Welcome to Surviving as a Civilian, the AAR. Here is when we talk about last week's episode and introduce next week's episode. I'm here with last week's guest, though, Andrew Collis. Andrew, how are you?
I'm doing well, Scott. How are you?
I'm really good. So just make sure everybody understands, at the end of every episode, we are going to publish a intermediate podcast that reviews the last week's episode and announces the next week's episode. So this one's going to be a little difficult and a little different because the first one we did was you.
Yeah, it's hard. It was hard for me to listen to myself and comment on it. So I don't have much to say, but I got a little.
Well, so I will tell you what I liked about this interview. First of all, what I really liked about it is you are a very thorough when you come to being like the behind the scenes guy. So you required me to do this interview with you, very regimented, very scheduled. Everything was on a timeline, and that's really one of the things that I liked. The other thing I liked about it is that we've been talking for forever, so I was very comfortable talking with you. It was not an issue at all, unlike some of the ones you're going to hear coming up. What were some of the things that you liked about the interview and the process?
I like that. I like the part about the kids with the plastic AKs, man. That was hilarious for me to drive by that village and see them pretending to shoot us. So
yeah, I like the part of the story I like that you talked about is when you were pulling security on the rock wall. You know, and you know what I thought about? You know when you took shrapnel from the grenade. Whoever was pulling security, where you had pulled security previously doing the same thing, didn't do a good job.
Yeah, no, they didn't. Well, it was also I think an Air Force guy because they were Air Force EOD.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. Their training was different than ours, you know. So I don't know what level of training they have in security and gunning, you know.
Right, probably not much. And they're EOD. I mean, let's realistically, how much security do those guys ever really pull?
Yeah, exactly. So
Andrew, what do you think was unique about your interview?
it was more like not what was said. It was more just for me the practice of going through all the steps that we made to get to the point to actually record our first interview and to be able to hear what the podcast would sound like as like an actual podcast, you know?
Right. It was for me, it was a lot of learning. So everybody that's listening to this, I think progressively I got better as the interviews went on. Yours, I initially treated kind of like you and I are talking right now, not so much as an interview or me listening to your story, and therefore required me to do a lot of editing later. But I learned from it. I just got a little better as time went on. Are you still there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. It was that's what my interview was for you to go through all the steps of doing an interview, like the introductions, the outro, and just like doing it like for the first time, you know. Like in the Army, we do the crawl, walk, run, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So it was good to go through everything. So that's why I thought it was unique. So
well, the thing I like about your story too is that you're exactly what we wanted to do with this anyway. You know, we want to take somebody who had some sort of conflict or injury or whatever in war and now is successful as a civilian, and that's exactly what you're doing. You got out, got yourself a degree, and bought some land. I mean, you're doing good.
Well, yeah, that's what I think my story can help people with is that, like, you knew me. I never thought I'd go to college.
Yeah.
I didn't really have anything planned after the military. And then, like,
can I say
a few years later,
can I say something about one of your issues?
Sure.
You know what I'm talking about?
No, I don't.
You're dyslexic, aren't you?
Oh yes, I am dyslexic. Yeah. It was hard for me. I was always like in school. I was uncomfortable reading and reading out loud because I was dyslexic, and like I barely graduated high school. You know, I went to like a special school for my senior year, and then I really didn't start to get past my dyslexia until the second deployment and I just read a ton of books, man. I was reading like 2 books a week, and that's when I really got better at reading and stuff. And that's what set me up to be good in college. So,
I bet you forgot that I knew that, huh?
no, I don't know. I'm open about it. I tell everyone about it. Like even now, like when I write, like when I spell, I like gotta double check everything because I don't trust myself writing or you know what I mean spelling.
And that reminds me of
So
one other thing. I'm horrible at spelling. I have no excuse for it at all. However, I kept spelling civilian when I started set up all these accounts with 2 L's. So I set up a email account. I set up a Twitter with the wrong spelling, all this crap with the wrong spelling. And you had to come in and remind me, you're doing it wrong.
well, yeah. Even when I saw that, I was like, "Am I spelling it wrong?" You know what I mean? So I had to like check it a couple of times before I even brought it up to you. You know, so but it is really easy when typing to put 2 L's in it.
Well, not only
I
that,
don't
but
know
when you
why.
type it does a red squiggly line and then it fixes itself. So I never knew I was spelling it
Yeah,
wrong.
yeah. So yeah, that's pretty funny. But that's how I think my story helps people is that like I overcame a lot of dyslexic and then going to the army, getting injured, and then dealing with like PTSD and stuff after that. Because I'm one of those people who I wouldn't do online courses because I knew I wouldn't do it. I had to go to a school. You know what I mean? I had to go in person and do it. And I think that's why it took me a little bit to get into school was because I don't like people. I don't like crowds. You know what I mean? Like, and I couldn't let people sit behind me. You know what I mean? I would always have to sit in the back of the class, or like I would be uncomfortable. I wouldn't listen. I wouldn't pay attention. So there was a couple of times where like the teacher made me sit in the front row, and I would just walk right out of class. I would just leave. Instead of sitting in the front row, I would just leave. And then I'd tell them later that I was like, I can't sit. I can't have people behind me because I won't pay attention.
Do you feel like you're ever going to get over that? Not being able to be around people?
Well, since I live in the middle of nowhere now, and I have like the only contact I have is my girlfriend and like the mailman that comes every once in a while. So I think I'm actually now that I haven't had so much contact with people, I'm starting to like miss it now. So like I'm starting to get back into, you know what I mean, like wanting to go out and I'm not minding being around people so much now. You know what I mean? Because I don't have it there all the time.
I think one of the other things that's great about your story is that you could have easily went the other way. And I'm not trying to point fingers or whatever, but given your kind of background and stuff, you could have went not the homeless vet, but the woe is me veteran that the government did this to me and look what they're doing for me now. I don't have anything, and you know what I'm saying. You could have easily went possibly the other way.
Yeah, man, I probably could have ended up in jail too. No,
Right?
no,
Yeah, most likely. I would have guessed.
Yeah,
It either would have been jail or what you're doing now, in my opinion.
Yeah, but no, school helped me a lot too, and like you said, like I'm like real detail oriented now, and I like structure and I like all this stuff. So
Yep,
worked out pretty well.
It did. Well, I think Andrew, really, your story really ties into our mission statement, what we're trying to do here. I thank you very much for being the driving force behind this thing. Thanks for all your help, and really thanks for doing these multiple interviews and this one today.
Yeah, no problem, Scott. Like it's fun for me. I like seeing all our hard work come together and actually make what we want to make. So I'm good. Thanks for having me on, Scott.
Hey, no problem. Stay tuned for next week. We have our first female and only female of this season. Charli Johnson will be our interview for next week that will drop. Before I go, on behalf of Andrew and I, we would like to say thank you to all the veterans we talked to for taking the time to share their stories with us. We created this podcast to show not just the military, but everyone, that you can make it through some of the toughest times in your life and come out on the other side on top. Here at Surviving as a Civilian, we cannot stress enough the importance of getting help if needed, or giving help if you can. Sometimes it could be as simple as making a phone call or answering that phone in the middle of the night from someone you haven't heard from in a while. If you or someone you know is struggling, help is available at the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 1-800-273-8255 or text the word HOME to 741-741. As always, I would like to thank Andrew Collis for his contributions and hard work behind the scenes. Without him, this podcast would not exist. Additionally, a special thank you to William Andrew Hall for his work on the logo and cover photo. If you like William's work, his contact information is provided on our social media. If you are a veteran and would like to share your story with us on the podcast, email us at survivingasacivilian.casting@gmail.com. Subscribe and rate this podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or anywhere else you get your podcast. Like and follow Surviving as a Civilian on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just as it sounds, except for add the underscore between the words for Twitter.